Hello and welcome to a live episode of Leveraging AI, the podcast that shares practical, ethical ways to leverage AI to improve efficiency, grow your business, and advance your career. This is Isar Metis, your host, and I have a fantastic show for you today. There is a big debate in the world right now whether AI is going to positively or negatively impact human creativity. Some people are saying that because AI can create all these things, then it will harm human creativity because what's the point? I'm actually on the other group that's saying that AI is going to boost human creativity. Why do I say that? Because it allows people who have creative ideas, which do not have the creative technical skills of creating images or painting or creating music, to actually bring their ideas to life. I'm one of these people. The stuff that I can do with AI today, when I speak on stages, when I teach my courses, when I work with my clients, I can do amazing things that were not possible before without hiring different kinds of people who are experts in understanding my ideas and then executing those ideas. So it is the ultimate democratization of creativity, and I personally absolutely love it. And it is, but there is still a barrier, and the barrier is you need the knowledge on what is the right process to get your creative ideas into life and which AI tools to use in each and every one of these steps and how to use them. Well, I'm really excited that this is exactly what we're going to talk about today and learn from Sachin Kamath. Sachin is our guest today, and he's one of the rare people that have both a strong left side and right side of the brain. He has a master's degree in engineering, but he's also a professional artist that is making and selling art. So this unique combination makes him the perfect person to teach people how to use AI in a creative process. And he actually teaches a course that shows people how to do the entire creative process using different AI tools. It's called the AI Accelerator Workshop for Creative Leaders and Teams. And today he's going to share with us how to create a full storyboard process, beginning to end. What are the tools? What are the prompts in order to create a storyboard for anything you want in your business? This is, as I mentioned, an amazing opportunity for us to learn from somebody who does this professionally and for a living. And so I'm really excited to welcome Sachin to the show. Sachin, welcome to Leveraging AI.
Thank you so much, Azar, for the wonderful introduction as well. So yeah, very happy to be here. And yeah, I'm ready to dive in and share the process that I usually walk through as well.
Before we start, I want to ask you a quick question. This process is obviously something you've been working on for a very long time. If people
Yeah.
are not that advanced, can they just take the process and start, or are there prerequisites for people to learn or experiment before they jump right into what we're going to show us?
I think, no, this particular process is super beginner friendly as well. So even for
Amazing.
non-designers who do not have any design background can totally use it and get started with it. But if you have a design background, you have these UX UI design or any kind of graphic design background, it's definitely going to be helpful, and it just charges your creative process.
Okay, fantastic. Before we start, I'll say one thing. We do these live sessions almost every Thursday at noon Eastern time. If you haven't joined us, come join us. You can either join us on LinkedIn Live, or you can join us on Zoom and sign up for the Zoom, and then you can actually ask questions and participate while we're doing the thing. So feel free to do that. We would love to have you. But for now, let's get started. So just walk us through the process. I'll ask questions if I have any, and let's learn this together.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a deck that I have created, and I think I can walk through the step-by-step process. So let me go ahead and share my screen, Isar.
Perfect. By the way, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, I'm going to let you know that we're going to share with you and tell you everything that we're seeing on the screen. But you can also watch this on our YouTube channel. It's called Multiply AI YouTube channel, and we spell multiply with AI in the end instead of Y. So Multiply AI. You can go and check the full details over there. I assume right now, if you're listening to the podcast, you're probably either driving, walking your dog, doing your dishes, working the yard. So you probably cannot watch the screen, but you can definitely go and check out the YouTube channel afterwards. So back to you, Sachin.
All right. You're looking at my slide deck, right? It's on the full screen right now, just to make
Yeah.
sure you're all. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. So let's go ahead. So I'm the co-founder of AI Lemon Academy, and we help you unlock the full potential of AI in your creative process, right? So that's what I'm every day looking forward to. Every day I wake up and I'm thinking, hey, what is the AI workflow? What is this new AI tool or AI model that I can really use and implement in a particular use case that I'm looking into? So, as part of that, we all know over here that the future is definitely the human and AI collaboration. So, your role as we see going into the future will be creative direction and curation of inputs and outputs. And of course, in between all of this, you need to get better at AI applications and knowing when to use them for the right purposes and the right workflows. We have up until now provided like a ton of workshops, free workshops. We do this as part of our learning programs, and we have been providing trainings and boot camps as well. And as part of this, a quick background about myself. I'm an artist and a designer at heart, and I love painting and drawing in my free time. The images that you see over here are not AI generated. These are actual photographs of my hyper-realistic drawings, and I'm very curious about the intersection of art and technology. And over 1 year ago, I had co-founded ALMN Academy and started helping top creative agencies and education creatives on how to use these AI tools really effectively in their creative process. Because I saw that there was a lot of gap between who were really adopting this and a lot of people were actually getting left behind in the real potential of using these workflows. So today I'm going to take you from how you can go from an idea to storyboard in minutes with AI. And especially if you are a creative director in a marketing or advertising agency, this workflow is going to be super useful if you want to streamline your storyboarding process. Now, this will save you really valuable time while ensuring you can effectively communicate your ideas with your team and also with the client throughout the project, right? And that's the key over here, so that you are able to very eloquently tell your ideas to the other people, and visuals are a very important part of this. Now, take for example, I have to develop an ad campaign for Tesla, right? And the panel one is, for example, the dawn of new era, panel two is the drive, and panel three is the destination. So let's say that these are the three concepts that I have broken down into, and we'll take a look at hey, how you can break it down into these three concepts. But I already have a concept, and I know that in each of these panels, I want this particular image to be shown as part of a narrative. What am I going to do at this point, right? At this point, I can quickly put together this storyboard with the help of AI, just going from this concept to the final visuals and then connect them into a wonderful pitch deck and tell a story. And you can apply it to your commercials, short films, documentaries, corporate videos, social media mood boards, etc. Right? So there are a lot of other applications around this particular workflow, but I think this step-by-step approach, when applied, is super useful for creating storyboards to bring your concepts to life. Now, what exactly is a storyboard? And this is what a traditional storyboard and storyboarding process looks like. So you have an idea in your head, and based on the client's briefing or requirements, whatever the client has shared with you, you want to put it down on a piece of paper or document so that you can communicate your ideas to your crew and in the end pitch to your client. So what you're going to do is either going to make rough sketches if you like sketching, or many of the times this does not even happen just because the lack of resources around us. But this is a traditional storyboarding process, trying to put down your ideas and concepts in a way that you can visually communicate to somebody else. Now, let's take this example from this movie called The Edge of Tomorrow. If you don't know it, it's actually a sci-fi movie, and there is a lot of action scenes that are involved, as you can imagine. And it's made especially dramatic by the choice of camera angles as you set out to create a film storyboard, and like you see over here. And this is what a typical three-frame storyboard looks like that conveys a story. And I think any particular idea Any ad commercial, for example, 2 minute ad commercial, 3 minute ad commercial, or any short scene or a film can be conveyed in these three storyboarding process, like these three panels, right? You can think of it as, if you're familiar with these terms, it is, for example, an establishing shot, it's a point of view shot, and in the end, there is a shoot that shows how all of these are connected together, and you really get an idea of the entire story. So any story can be broken down into three frames. All right, so now the question is, how can we all use AI to help us reach that particular stage? How can we make this process much more easier? Now, many of you will be familiar with what I'm going to talk over here, and you might have faced the same problems or hurdles on your way from concepting to final pitching. You probably have often found yourself stuck in the brainstorming phase and not able to find that creative direction to go to the next step. You have a rough idea for an ad, and but you still don't know what to do with the next step to turn it into a story and create a high quality visual. Or, for example, you might have a full script planned out and you want to turn them into a professional short list for storyboards, right? These are typically the two use cases where you probably have a vague idea, a rough idea, or you might have a full script. But the next step is definitely trying to break them down and trying to put those visuals together.
I want to
Now,
pause you for
this,
just 1 second and
yeah,
generalize this for a lot of people in the audience. So, the process you're
absolutely.
talking about is like a creative agency, but the same kind of needs exist in any company. If you think about most marketing campaigns, they will have some visuals that are going to be attached to them, right? Those visuals could be static visuals, could be video visuals, could be a combination of them, depending on what the campaign actually needs to achieve. Some industries, you need those visuals to actually sell something. So, if you're selling any design services, not just graphic design, but you're selling interior design, you're selling lighting solutions, you're selling carpets, you're selling your IKEA, and you're selling furniture. Like there
Right.
is in many industries, the design process is a very big part of not just marketing, but actually selling the product that you're trying to sell. And if you generalize this, when you're talking to clients, if you can create visualizations that are appealing to the client, they don't have to be your product, but they convey why they should use your product. And my favorite example that I always like to use is people who sell grills never show an image of a grill in their ads. They show a backyard party, right? Because that's what you're
Exactly.
selling.
Yeah.
You're selling that fun atmosphere of people around the grill having beers. These are the things you can have in your head when we're continuing with Sachin through this process of, oh, I'm not a marketing agency. I know, but there's place for this process in literally every company across multiple use cases.
No, absolutely. So I think any product that you want to sell, any story that you want to tell might not be directly related to that particular visual, right? So you can always build a story that emotionally connects to that particular need. So I think even while creating a pitch deck, this is super useful to then tell a story. And I think there are a lot of other indirect use cases you can take from here with what the steps that I'm going to show you, especially in the image generation process, right? But you're totally right. I think there are so many other directions and use cases you can go from here. And what I wanted to point out is, especially within the storyboarding process itself, it's a very manual and time consuming process, and many cannot afford going through that particular process. Now, the demand for visual content and storytelling is also so high that this quickly becomes a bottleneck, and many just override this process altogether, which leads to loss of information even if you're a marketing team and communicating what you really want to convey in your visuals to your final client or to your team members. There's a lot of loss of information because you're just using words to convey them. Plus, there is not so much of innovation that is happening in this space. And that's exactly why it's a perfect use case for AI to help you in your creative process. Now, integrating AI into your creative process makes advertising pre-production very efficient and easy because it is so much cheaper and faster. Plus, you will be able to control and still keep the highest quality in your images. And I believe every creative professional now needs to leverage this to their advantage. Just like we discussed, we have had a couple of calls earlier as well. We talked back and forth about this. I think non-designers can definitely benefit a ton from this, but really professionals, creative professionals can supercharge their process, their creative process, because they can just take it up a whole new level, and the entire barrier to creativity can be raised. The bar to creativity can be raised right with this. Now, of course, there is a learning curve, but once you integrate this within your creative process and train your teams to collaborate with AI, you will quickly see the benefits. The process is actually very enjoyable. It enhances your creative output, and you will be able to scale your creative process or your creative agency. You will be able to seamlessly transition from a rough idea to a professional shortlist for storyboard or for your pitch deck and send this out to your clients the same day. There are examples like this. This is already happening, and we have seen a lot of our bootcamp participants telling us about the efficiency increases and the cost savings that they have had while creating any of this. Now, here is what I'm really talking about. Now, this entire screenshot looks pretty overwhelming, but don't worry about it. I will break it down step by step, and I will show you what is involved in step one, step two, step three to go from concept to the final visuals, right? And that's what we will cover. So the step one is definitely to generate these unique concepts for your advertising campaigns. Now, many of you might already have these ideas in your head as soon as you read through your client brief. If you have this rough idea of the campaign story that you want to tell, then it's absolutely great. You can start there. But if you don't, you can always generate some pretty unique ideas with GPT-4. So for this particular step, GPT-4 is the best that is out there for creative concepting and the most accessible as well. So let's imagine that you have already come up with this concept, because it's pretty much starting with asking GPT-4, hey, here is my idea. Ask it to be a character that you want to be as part of taking this role. Take, for example, you can ask GPT-4 to become the seasoned creative professional or a seasoned graphic designer. First, you have to give it a character, and I think a lot of your listeners, your audience, are already familiar with this. First, you need to give GPT-4 a character. In this particular case, I'm going to tell it, hey, you are a seasoned creative director for marketing campaigns of some top brands that are out there. Now, this is my brief. Can you generate me some three concepts that will work really well for this particular industry sector? So that's one way to get started. Frankly, to get started, there are so many different ways, and I think it depends on our own unique style as well. But getting started is the most straightforward step in here. And for that, it's GPT-4. Now, the
I want
next,
to pause you for just 1 second. Again, just
yep,
generalizing it for something that I do that is very similar, but it's for a very different purpose, a very similar process. I do a
yep,
lot of presentations. I do presentations when I teach courses. I do presentations on stages. I do presentations to clients or to prospects to become clients, and so on. I love including relevant graphics in my presentations. And I
mhm,
follow a very similar process where I would sometimes even use ChatGPT to help me develop the outline of the presentation. But once I have the outline, I know what's going to be on the slide. I literally go back to ChatGPT and saying, okay, here's the presentation that I'm doing. Your role is, let's say in this case, an expert graphic designer that is an expert on conveying complex ideas with simple graphics. And I will then give it the general flow of the presentation. Sometimes if I have it already done, I will upload the actual text, the actual PowerPoint presentation into ChatGPT as a resource and say, okay,
yep,
what would you suggest? 3 suggestions for graphics for slide number 1. And it will give me 3 suggestions. So instead of starting
yep,
with a blank sheet of paper, I now have ideas I can start playing with. And sometimes I won't pick one of them, but it's a good start for brainstorming either myself or back and forth with ChatGPT.
yep, yep. That makes a whole lot of sense. And I think we have to give a lot of context for
Mhm.
GPT-4 to come up with really specific ideas. The way I usually start over here is I just need a starting point, because I might have some of my own ideas, but I want to see, hey, can it give me a creative spark to go in a new direction? And usually, I'm not just talking about GPT-4 prompting. I'm also talking about image prompting. A lot of people think that to create images, you need to provide it very specific, huge paragraph of prompts to get the specific results. Yes, you do, but when you first get started, you have to actually start very simple. You just need to specify your subject followed by some kind of aesthetics that you might have on your mind, right? And that's the really the starting point. Because when you start adding additional things, especially in your image generation, you really want to have control over your next steps, over your image generation, right? And you might have
Yep.
found that when you're using, take for example, I think a lot of people use Midjourney. You might
Yep.
have found that it's not really listening to you and you don't really know where things are going wrong. And this is exactly why, to keep the control of your image generation, you need to be very simple, very straightforward in your first prompts and take it from there. And of course, you can build complexity from then on. And I really think of it as a creative process rather than putting all the keywords right away in there and then knowing that you're not getting the images. You try the same thing 3, 4 times with other keywords, you don't get the images, and people get frustrated. So I think the real key over here is to start very simple in step one and then start adding complexities step by step, right? So that's one tip I would give out. And the same thing is what I do with GPT-4. I start very simple, straightforward, and I want to see, do I get a new creative spark from there? Now, once I have that in the step two, in the next step, I'm going to break down the concepts for each of this frame, right? Because I want to create a 3-panel storyboard for this particular example. I want to break down the concepts. What is the first frame? What is the second frame? What is the third frame? And here is an example prompt that I used. So I went ahead and prompted GPT-4 to break down my concept into 3 different frames. Now, this is just an example prompt, which I used for this Tesla ad storyboard, which I wanted to create. Now, the tip here is your 3 pictures could be sequential with direct connection from frame to frame, or the relationship could be even more loose, right? So it can be a little bit of indirect connection, or it can just tell a story from point A to point B to point C. So I think you can leverage different ways to tell a story. And here is an example of example prompt for creating a 3-piece storyboard so that the GPT-4 gives you what the panel one or the frame one looks like, what the frame two looks like, and what the frame three is going to be. And as you see over here in the brackets, this is where you
So
can.
I'm going to pause you for a second, just for our listeners. If you can read this thing beginning to end and then comment on the last section that you're talking about, because some people are not going to be able to watch
Yeah,
the screen.
yeah, no problem. So I'm saying, I'm just going to read what I have here in the prompt. I'm telling it, you are a seasoned creative and art director, and you have created some top award-winning marketing and advertising campaigns for top brands. You have a new challenge, create a compelling 3-page storyboard that will impress your client, right? And here are further details. Now, this is where you can get really specific, or you can be a little more open to GPT-4 taking you in new direction. So
Yep.
I'm asking over here, your task is to create a 3-page storyboard, one large composite consisting of 3 pictures and a title. Your 3 pictures could be sequential, could be parts of a panel, or the relationship could be even more loose. However, there should be something that unites them all as well as the title, right? So I'm setting up the context, overall context of what each of those breakdowns should look like. And now here I'm going to input what the brief is. It's saying, let's conceptualize a storyboard for Tesla, a brand at the forefront of innovation in electric vehicles and renewable energy technologies. The storyboard will focus on a future product that embodies Tesla's commitment to sustainability, cutting edge technology, and the vision of a world powered by clean energy. We will introduce the Tesla solar car. Again, it's a hypothetical one, which I'm using as an example. A revolutionary electric vehicle powered by advanced solar technology capable of self-charging under sunlight, right? So that's my brief. It's a very short brief. Of course, you will get much more detailed brief from your clients, and you can include that over here. Usually I start with something very simple. Like I said, I like to go in new directions. Now, my last sentence in the prompt is, design this 3-panel storyboard and impress them for the next big advertising campaign. Go. That's it. That's my example prompt, which I'm using for this one.
Fantastic. I want to a quick kind of like behind the scenes why this is a good prompt. The prompt starts with, and every prompt that you want good results needs to have the same thing. The prompt starts with telling it what role it's doing, in this case, a seasoned creative director. It continues with what the goal needs to be. So it defines clearly what the goal is. It defines the format of the output, right? So you could ask for a tweet, you can ask for an image, you can ask for a whole 20-page document. Like you can ask for many different things. It very clearly defines what the format of the output, and then it provides as much context as possible for it to create the best outcome for you, which makes it a very good prompt. A great way to start. What's the outcome of this and how do we continue from here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Isar. And I would also love to know any advice from you over here to take this to the next level, and we can have a chat about that. But here is something that I start using to just get, again, a starting point into what will my results look like. And again, I mean, in this particular slide, what I want to highlight is iteration is the key, right? So based on the prompt and my specific request, I get this 3-panel description and breakdown of what should be in each of those panels. So I have a screenshot over here of what ChatGPT has replied to me. Now, here is the most important part. You will need to iterate and take it in your own creative direction, right? So this is why it is human and AI collaboration. If you just take these inputs and directly proceed, then the results will be suboptimal. I would always suggest that try to push the boundaries of creativity right in this particular step, because you will not always get sometimes what you specifically want. But also, if you get something that is close to what you're looking for, why not try to go a little bit beyond and push the boundaries and see if you can come up with something unique and make it your own, right? So this is the step where you iterate. All right, so let's moving ahead. We have step 3, which is creating sketches for each frame with AI using the prompt crafting and image control techniques. And this is actually the most exciting part of this. I'm a visual guy. I love creating images, animation, painting, sketches, right? Like I showed you. And especially for me, this is the most exciting part of it. And here again, I have a screenshot of what ChatGPT has provided me. So let me just walk you through it. Now, there are multiple ways and tools to approach this. And here is the simplest way right within GPT-4. So I always use GPT-4 because it is powered with DALI. And all you need to do is in the next prompt, ask it to generate a sketch for that particular frame. You have already received these breakdown like panel 1, panel 2, panel 3 from your previous step. Now just ask in the next step GPT-4 to create a sketch out of that particular panel. Yeah. And this is exactly what I've done over here. As you see that DALI generated this beautiful sketch for me, and it is very good at listening to my image prompts. In fact, it is the best at prompt adherence, even better than Midjourney V6 in most of the cases. However,
So I want to pause you for just 1 second to talk a little bit
yeah,
about the two biggest differences between DALI and Midjourney, which are the two tools I use the most as well. I use a bunch of
yeah,
others. I use Stable Diffusion a little bit. I use Ideogram every time I need some text, but mostly
yeah,
I use Midjourney and DALI, which is part of ChatGPT 4. And
yeah,
there's two very distinct benefits, one on each side. The benefit of Midjourney is that if you're looking for high-end realistic outcomes, nothing beats Midjourney in my
absolutely.
eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, it's harder to get those results. If you look, the biggest benefit of ChatGPT is that it's a part of a chat. It
Yeah,
understands the context of what you're trying to do. In this case, it's been a part of the whole conversation, right? Beginning to end. Like, this is what we're trying to do. Let's ideate. Let's come up with the ideas. It understands what we're trying to do. And hence, the chances that the image is going to represent what you want it to represent is in less steps and less pain is significantly higher. So I will say that if you're looking for the ultimate image, Midjourney is the way to go. It will be more work. If you're looking for something that's going to be good enough, it's going to save you a lot of time. And in many cases, that's good enough is, guess what? Good enough. Then you don't need to go further than this. So there's a huge benefit in doing what Sachin just described, which is to I'm having this chat, and then from within this chat, I'm starting to generate the images because it understands what is it trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Midjourney is my favorite image generator that is out there. Every morning I wake up, if I have any idea, the first thing I do is I go to Midjourney and type it out and I see what kind of visuals I get.
Yeah,
Now, I'm showing GPT-4 over here because this is the easiest way, the simplest way to get it done right
yeah,
within what we are the storyboarding, what we are talking about. Because we have the concept right there, and you don't need to prompt engineer it to creating very high quality images because
yeah,
there is a kind of learning curve involved to taking it from ChatGPT to then prompting it in Midjourney. But by the way, Midjourney, you can do a whole lot of techniques. It's not just prompting and creating images. There is a ton of things that you can do. In fact, I deep dive into Midjourney a whole lot in the bootcamp itself. But also, I love using Stable Diffusion, Comfy UI, all the open source AI models. And there are a lot of things that you cannot do it with Midjourney. And I will show you some of the examples. Take, for example, you want to get that exact pose of the person with the exact face all in the same image and create 100 different variations. You cannot do that with Midjourney. You cannot create the exact consistent character with Midjourney, right? There is a bit of trick and kind of workflow which probably takes a lot of time and will not give you 100% of the result every time. But it's great for high quality photorealistic images.
yeah.
And right over here, what is the sketch, a beautiful sketch which DALI generated for me right within GPT-4. I just told it, this is panel one, right? Create a sketch for me, create a detailed style, black and a detailed storyboard style, black and white outline sketch for this image. Usually the storyboard images are sketches. That's good enough. And why did it generate just a black and white sketch? It is exactly because DALI is very good at listening to our prompts, but it's not very good with aesthetics and photorealism. And this is exactly where we need to go into the next step, what I'm going to show you. So step 4 is turning these sketches to final illustrations and quickly iterating to land on your final concept visuals. Now, in theory, you can just as well at this particular step stop, right? You have the sketch and you have the storyboard description, you have the story to tell, you can stop. But we can also go one step further and get those aesthetics in the final image and turn them into finished visuals. And this is exactly what we will quickly take a look at. And this is what I'm talking about. What you on the screen here right now is on the left side, you have the sketch, which we generated with GPT-4. And on the right side, you have the exact same sketch turned into a photorealistic visual, which is not possible with Midjourney. It's impossible with Midjourney. Even if you use image references, even if you use image weights, it's not going to listen to you. It's not going to stick to that particular outlines, to that particular reference image that I have used. And this is exactly why we need to turn to another tool, which is you can use the open source models like ControlNet and Stable Diffusion. In fact, I use it a whole lot with my own Comfy UI or Focus, as I call it. Focus, Automatic 1111, and Comfy UI. These are the three interfaces for using Stable Diffusion on your laptop. But there is an easier solution that is out there. So there is this web app called Leonardo AI, which is built on top of this open source technology and helps me get these images exactly based on my storyboard sketches. And it is powered with Stable Diffusion, and I can use the ControlNet extension all within it. So just like you see over here, I have given it my sketch as a reference image. I have
So I
also,
want to pause it just for 1 second for the people again who are listening. What we're looking at right now is Leonardo.ai. It's a great tool. It's free. It's a really powerful image generation and manipulation tool that everybody has access to. And what Sachin has done, he's using that. The first thing he did is he uploaded the sketch that was created by DAL-E inside ChatGPT at the previous step as the initial starting point for the process that we're going to do in Leonardo.
yep, exactly. By the way, I think Leonardo is an amazing tool. It's powered with Stable Diffusion. And as you see over here, you can select different fine-tuned models. This is where it's super powerful. You can pick from different kind of styles and aesthetics right there. And it's free, right? You get the credits. But I'm not sure if you will be able to build this workflow because you need to use this extension called ControlNet. And I'm using over here the edge to image model within that and the image guidance, which is you have text to image and then you have image to image. And here I'm using the image to image along with the ControlNet extension. I think you have to pay for this, but I think you can give it a try, right? As you log into Leonardo AI, you can select this and over here, I have input my reference image and I have written down my prompt, which again, you can engineer this prompt within Leonardo by using the prompt generation guidance. Everything can be done within Leonardo AI. So the prompt
I want to
is
pause you just for 1 second. There's a person on LinkedIn Live that is asking, can we use Playground to achieve the same effect in what you're doing in Leonardo right now? And I don't know if you know what he means.
I think if you're talking about Playground AI powered by Stability AI, I'm not sure if it's powered with Stability AI. It might be, but you need to really look for if they have this image to image along with the ControlNet extension. If they don't, you'll probably not be able to do this.
Okay.
It's the same thing as like when you use Midjourney, I can still use this as a reference image, the sketch, but it'll not give me the result like exactly the sketches. It'll
Yeah. It's
create
gonna
its
be its own interpretation versus
right.
a high resolution image replica of the sketch.
Yeah. But you can also use open source models on Replicate. There is a ControlNet model. You can do this within it. I found Leonardo is one of the best ways for everybody to access it and to start doing this. All right, here I just use my reference sketch and like I just showed you with the extension. And there you go. I have turned the sketch into a photorealistic image within Leonardo AI. And that's the power of using these AI tools and thinking all of this as an AI workflow, right? I think the real power is building AI workflows. Prompting is a small piece of the puzzle, really. This is what I think, because prompting is going to become more and more natural language powered, just like DALI is very good at it. Midjourney will get there very soon. And prompting, even though very important right now, is going to be a small piece of the puzzle. And the real power is in building AI workflows for your particular use cases, like model photo shoot, right? Where you want to have particular pose, you want that particular consistent character in every single image. You want that specific pose, or you want to change the pose very easily. And it's listening to your prompts. That's what you're looking for. And you can build these kind of workflows. And you can follow these steps for each of these funnels, each of these frames of your storyboard, each of these panels. And there you go. You have these 3-panel storyboard ready, right? You have the script, you have each of those panels, what it should be, you have the sketches for the panels, and you have finally the images, the photorealistic images.
So I
And
want to pause you for a second. First of all, I think it's
yeah,
brilliant. I think it's absolutely amazing. And for those of you who don't see the screen, we have 3 columns on the page. On the left, we have the detailed description. In the middle, we have the 2D black and white sketch. And on the right, we have a high-end rendering realistic view of the same exact sketch. Like it looks as if it was a coloring book that somebody who's really good at coloring colored it to make it fully realistic. Like it's literally the same image, just in 3D reflections, lighting, and everything. Can you go back for a second for Leonardo? Because I want to go a step more detailed into the actual step in Leonardo, because I think it's the most technical one we've done so far. So the steps are this, right? You said you upload the image. That's easy, right? You download the image from DALI, you upload the image. You said you write a prompt. What does the prompt describe? Can you read the prompt that you use to go from the 2D sketch into the 3D beautiful image?
Yeah. So here as well is where the prompt crafting skills come into picture, right? Because you can change this. You need a prompt which will define your final vision as well. Just a reference image is not enough. If you really want to get that final aesthetic and have that aesthetic consistent across the different frames, you want to have to engineer your prompt. So my prompt here is the pearl white Tesla solar car. So I'm defining the color, right? And I have the subject in there with its sleek and aerodynamic form, cuts through the stillness of the deserted highway at sunrise, a stunning display of harmony between technology and nature, first light of dawn, sun rising in the background. So I have pretty much described the subject, what the subject is and what it's looking, and I've described what the surrounding is, right? And then I'm hoping Leonardo fills in some of the creative gaps for me, or you can get a little more specific in there. But also keep in mind when your prompt becomes very big, it starts to ignore some of those details.
Yeah.
But of course, we can deep dive into the prompt crafting funnel. The technique that I work with is definitely a lot more than this, and it's very important that you get your prompts to get your final aesthetics to have them consistent across frames.
So I want to ask you specifically about this because when I do stuff like that in Midjourney, I
Yep.
use the describe function. So those of you who don't know, in Midjourney, you can upload an image and ask Midjourney to describe it. So instead of doing / imagine, you can do / describe, and then it gives you 3 prompts that it thinks will describe the image. And then what I do when I want to create images that are similar to other images, I pick and choose components from the 3 variations of descriptions that Midjourney comes up with on its own, and I craft something that I think is the best description, combining all these components together with the weights that I think, or the order that I think, that will get me closest to what I'm looking for. Is this a similar process? Is there a mechanism you use to come up with this prompt? Is it just based on the prompt you had in DALL-E, or is it just your experience that teaches you how to do these prompts?
I'm just trying to look for the basic ingredients when I'm prompting. Am I describing my subject? Can I can the machine know what I'm talking about? And I'm trying to make it easier that way, but I'm also trying to leave some gaps for some of the creativity to flow into it, right? Because I don't want to control every single thing. Finally, this is a storyboard and it's a pre-production step. I can get much more detailed in the next steps, right? I am only looking to get those aesthetics that can tell a story from my vision, from my point of view. So I have things here. Take, for example, you have your subject, then you have your color themes, anything that describes the mood and feel of the overall scene. That's what I want to have over here. Anything that describes the background, like I envision it, I want to have it over here. And I think having that ambience and that mood along with lighting will just take it to the next level. And I think those ingredients are something that's good enough to start your journey, to start your prompting. And of course, then you can do image manipulation and a whole lot of things with the AI workflows as well.
Fantastic. Now I think it's a lot clearer. So you're basically trying to describe the vision you have in your head of what this would look like if this was a
Yep.
realistic image, but
Yep.
leaving enough room for it to come up with different ideas.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. I think when you're
Fantastic.
using AI image generators, any AI tool, even for copywriting, you have to be able to let go of that control, that ultimate
Yep.
control. You will find many different ways, right? You can build AI workflows. In fact, if I need, like I said, if I want a specific pose of a person, if I want that specific outfit, if I want the specific face of the person, I will not work with some of the tools. I will not work with Midjourney because I know it will not work for me. I will use the open source models and build my own workflows to get that done. So I think it's key to realize, and I think that's the skill that everyone needs to learn over the next 2 to 3 years, which is really curation of inputs and outputs. Because the AI models that you choose is going to depend on what inputs do you have and what output you're looking for. And that's when you will choose what AI model or what AI workflow to build, which you can then use multiple times for very similar projects. And I think that's the secret to scaling any part of your creative process. And that's what I look into. That's what I'm passionate about. And I always look for these AI workflows that can really fill a gap between a creative process.
Fantastic. There's a question on LinkedIn Live. Can you adjust the aspect ratios of the images? I assume that applies both for the sketch created on DALL-E as well as, okay, now I'm in step 4 in
Yep.
Leonardo. Can you still change the aspect ratio?
Yeah, I think you can change the aspect ratio, like you can make it 16:9. In DALL-E, you can tell it, this is the aspect ratio, and it'll do it for you. And then you can take that image in here, and as you see over here, there is also, how do I call this? There's also a button for aspect ratio, and you can choose different dimensions. One tip
Okay.
is, if you want to use AI image generators, like especially Stable Diffusion, your output needs to have the same aspect ratio as your input for image to
Yeah.
image. Otherwise, you might find that there might be discrepancies. You will not get that high quality result. All right. Good. So let's move to the next step.
Okay.
And we just saw this one. And yeah, we have the storyboard from here. So with this AI workflow, now you can clearly pitch and sell your idea or your vision to your client. So you don't have to use words like imagine this scene or that person. You can just show them these images and sell them the creative idea that or the creative campaign that you want to design for them. And you can do this all within 24 hours and take that brief and tell them, hey, this is the idea that you have. Do we sign off? Do we have an approval? And of course, there is a ton of things that you can do afterwards, right? I'm only talking about pre-production where your images are good enough for that particular step. And then a whole lot of AI workflows that you can also build afterwards. All right. I would love to know if you do you all find this workflow useful? And yeah, if you do, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments or any questions you have, you can shoot out a message for me. And yeah, I would also like to show whatever we looked over here is just scratching the surface. I would like to give you some more ideas on what is really possible when we deep dive into the AI workflows, right? We are always looking to see how we can push the creative boundaries. What if we can add animation? And here is what it looks like.
So again, those of you who don't see the screen, on three panels again, on the left, there is a kind of like a pencil sketch of a high-end performance futuristic race car. In the middle, there is a variation of it that is like colored, but still looks like an image. And on the right, there's an actual video of the race car driving. And I assume you've done this either with Pika or with Runway, right?
Yeah. This is with Pika Labs, and you can do this with Runway as well or Stable Video Diffusion. So it's like always thinking what you can do as the next step, right? Instead of just showing the images, can you turn it into an animation? And there are a lot of ways to control the animation as well, right? You can do camera controls. You can tell your story in a little bit, take it one step further, tell it in a more compelling manner, and videos always work. So it's always about figuring what really works for you as part of your creative process. And that's one thing I wanted to show. Take, for example, if you want to generate some wonderful, unique concepts for your campaigns, that is possible as well. This is when you have to push the boundaries and start using the right tools. Because, for example, Midjourney will not give you these kind of results. You'll probably have to work really hard. And even in the end, you might not be able to create these kind of images. This was created with DALI, by the way, right? So you need to really understand what are the tools that work for you, what is your input, what is your output, and what would you like to use as to go through that process. Now, here is an example where you can take control of your image generation and tell compelling stories, right? As part of your storyboard, what if one of the panels is not working for you and you're trying to control and trying to change things? You can, of course, craft your prompts and do a lot of image manipulation techniques to really get control over your images while you tell your stories. What if you want to explore some specific style and aesthetics and create on-brand images, right? This is what is super useful when you have a specific mood board and you want to capture those aesthetics and settings and you want to apply that for multiple images that you want to create for that particular campaign.
So again, to
Of
pause
course,
here and explain to people what we're seeing, there's a panel with three images. On the image on the left has a close-up of an astronaut in his flight suit. In the middle, there's a girl in a dress in a field. And the combination of these, so the subject is the astronaut, the style is the girl in the field with blue skies, and the combination of this has an astronaut placed in a field with blue skies around it, which is like combines the subject and the style and settings of the two images into one really unique and interesting and innovative thing because you don't expect to see an astronaut in the middle of a field.
yeah, exactly. So if you have some unique creative concept and you have certain inspiration to start with, you can get those done. It's only about figuring out the right process for you. Of course, you can explore, as you already know, like different compositions, camera angles, lighting, all of this start adding to the look and feel of your images to get the final output. And of course, you can also create consistent characters. I want to close this with I designed this consistent character GPT, and this is top 5 on the GPT DALI store. I'm super grateful and happy for this one because a lot of people were reaching out to me and telling me they cannot create consistent characters. Take, for example, for the comic books, right? They want to create comic books, tell a story, and they cannot create consistent characters within Midjourney. And this is exactly why I designed this consistent character GPT, and I would love for you to give it a try. It's on the, if you just go on the GPT store and look for, just search for consistent character GPT, you will find it. And I would love to hear what is your experience with it, what do you come up with it. All right, yeah, thank you. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to my co-founder, my partner, Diana Dibble. You can find me, Sachin Kamath, on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And yeah, last thing, we have a creative AI bootcamp coming up, which starts on March 11th. And if you want to deep dive into this AI-powered creative world, and you think this is the right upskill for you and for your work and your projects or your creative agency, then this is the right fit for you as well. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions about this. Isar, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed walking through this entire workflow. And yeah,
This
was
was
really a
Yeah, this was fantastic, Sachin. Before we end, we have a few minutes. There's one more question from the audience, and I'll just read it word to
yeah,
word.
absolutely.
It's from Manalo Torres. He's asking, what would you tell all the people who are not able to run Stable Diffusion on their computers because they don't have enough GPU power? Is there an alternative to SD plus ControlNet or SD plus ComfyUI? SD, for
Yeah.
those who don't know, is Stable Diffusion. So SD and ComfyUI, like the example of Leonardo powered with ControlNet. So are there other options for online capabilities?
Yes. In fact, a lot of times when I have to run very heavy, when I have to do quick and experiments, I would run Stable Diffusion on the cloud, and you can find multiple ways to do that. For example, you can rent a GPU on the cloud and go through the Git installation process. You can take those repositories, upload it, and that's a quick process when you're running it on the cloud. So I do run it on the cloud where I can rent out a GPU, or you can look for other platforms. I think there are a couple of other Stable Diffusion, Automatic 1111 especially, to run Stable Diffusion. You can, I think it's called Run Diffusion or something like that. Do look at it, and you don't have to go through any installation process on your computer, and it will not use your GPU performance. It's going to use the GPU on the cloud. Of course, you have to pay, but it's the amount you pay is very low. I think you'll have to pay less than $1, like 50 cents per hour, when you're renting out on the cloud server. Yeah, there are ways to do this, and I use that often as well.
Fantastic. Another question is, how often do you use weird or chaos parameters when you create these things? Probably, I
Mm,
assume earlier in the process.
yeah, frankly, I don't use them so much because there are so many ways that you can reach the end result. Weird and chaos parameters, they are weird, right? It's very hard to say that there is a specific use case for it. Take, for example, I think weird parameter will give you a little bit more of realism, like you're taken, if you want a person's photograph and it makes it look like not synthetic, like most of the images that you generate on Midjourney look like highly amazing, highly photoshopped, highly synthetic, and you want to take out that look, maybe that's where it's helpful, but I would probably use an AI enhancer to get that done.
Yeah, me too.
Chaos, if I need more variations, I would probably do that, but not so much because I would rather want to keep something consistent. And then I'm very heavily into image manipulation of how I can go from point A to the end point that I'm looking for, rather than just getting a lot of different variations which I can use. I usually need one thing, and I want that level of control, but I also want certain level of creative spark or creative output. And I think there's a fine balance to strike. But yeah, so frankly, I don't use those parameters. But I know that they are helpful in some ways.
Yeah. So I use chaos pretty frequently, just like you said, especially when I'm ideating and I'm trying to say, oh, what would be cool? Then I use chaos a lot, and then I get a bigger variety, and then I would upscale one image and then use the chaos again to get variations. Like it just helps me more in the creative brainstorming process than in the
Yep.
generation of the outcome process. Once you're done with that, then I try to be very specific, and then
Yep.
it obviously hurts you. Sachin, this was fantastic. Like it's a very well thought after process. You obviously, as I said in the beginning, the engineering side of you is working very well with your creative side to create really magical process here. Those of you who haven't watched this, we will put the link to this in the show notes, the link to the YouTube channel as well. So you can go and see everything that we were talking about. Because this one was beyond seeing the process, there's a lot of visual outcome you probably want to watch. So you can go and do that as well. And as Sachin mentioned, go check him out on LinkedIn. That's how we connected. Go check out if this is what you do for a living, or if this is something you aspire to do for a living. Absolutely, go check out his course. He's the best out there in these kind of things and really developing AI infused processes for creative outcomes. And so I really appreciate you taking the time. I really appreciate you sharing with us with your knowledge. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Isar. And yeah, it was a pleasure. And yeah, we'll connect again very soon. Thank you, everyone.